Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 93, and today we're going to be jumping into some Gauntlet. And so, the thing with Gauntlet and where we're going to be kind of going with this today is it's always struck me as like kind of odd with the metas that we see in Runeterra, in that the decks rarely ever top like 10% market share of the meta. And so, if you want to kind of like extrapolate and expand on that moving into best of three, like I don't know the best way to do it. I know the best way to do it isn't just triple the numbers, but that's pretty close, especially with the decks at the top of the format. And so as we're kind of into this format right now, to where Lysandra Talia Thralls is the most popular deck. It holds like an 8% market share. You should still just run into it like 25% of the time, right? If we're using that just triple it kind of methodology, or if we want to kind of expand on that a little further and just say, okay, well, your average player has the one deck that they just want to play on the ladder all of the time. They want to come out and jump into best of three. They just take their best deck and then just pick the two most popular decks at the moment that aren't their favorite. And so I could realistically see an argument for that meta share then jumping from like 25% up into the 30s or something. But this isn't something like in Magic, as to where you're basically need to prepare for like 5 or 6 decks, and then that's the end of the day. The way it kind of turns out in Runeterra, as you can imagine, if the most common deck only like holds 8% of the meta, and then if you want to kind of like group some of these decks together, right? So if we want to say, Lysandra Talia, and then looking at something like Trundlemere, and then looking at something like Aurelion Soul Ramp, they're all essentially the same deck, right? They're just playing this really AoE heavy set of early game plays. They're going to be playing that 3/3 for 3 dude that has some heal attached to him. They're just going to try and stall the game until like turn 6 or turn 7, to where they're just like, herder, here's my big play. And so you can kind of call them all the same deck, and then maybe the numbers kind of work as we've kind of historically seen in Magic and seen in Hearthstone. But I always struggle with these kind of things. And so where the story's kind of going is, in the past, we've kind of tried to design these lineups to where, what if we want to say play, it's kind of like two sides of the coin, right? On one side, we would say, okay, what if we want to make a lineup that just beats one deck, right? That's what we took into seasonals this time. We brought a lineup that was extremely good against Pantheon, and it was extremely good against Talia Ziggs. And then we just kind of assumed that we would play those decks enough for it to just kind of work out. The kind of other side there is saying, well, this deck is pretty good and pretty popular. I'm just going to play 3 decks that are kind of bad against that one and just ban it, right? And so that gets you in kind of this other space, as to where you're like, well, Lysandra's Halia is the best deck. If I just don't intend on ever playing that, because I'm just going to ban it every time it shows up, what does a good lineup look like at that point? And so where this is kind of going with me now is, I'm kind of saying like, well, there's not a good enough reason to really like target out these specific decks, because you just won't see it enough, right? Even if the Thrall's deck holds, say, like a 40% market share across like 5 matches, we're only going to play it 2 or 3 times. And so just devoting a lineup to beat Thralls probably isn't that good, or probably isn't that strong. And so I've kind of taken the approach now as to where it's just like, well, what if we just pick some of the best decks in the format that are pretty good against the entirety of the meta, but don't have any like real superstar matchups. And that's kind of where we're at today, and the decks that we're bringing. And so I'll go ahead and pull the spreadsheets up. I know everyone loves to see a good spreadsheet. That's what we're about to drop on you. And this is the lineup we'll be bringing here: is this Fizz, Riven, the Annie Ziggs, and then the Scouts. Got to bring some Scouts every once in a while, am I right? But where this is kind of going is, I still think that the Fizz Riven deck is supremely underrated. It's very good against all of the decks at the top of the meta, and it just, for whatever reason, only holds like 1% of the market share. This is one of these things that I don't think we would ever see in Magic. I don't think that there would ever be a deck that is this good against the top end of the meta that just nobody plays. It is mind-blowing to me that this is the way it works in Runeterra. Right? If you take a peek at the first column here. This is the Fizz Riven deck, and in the top 10 most common decks, it has a positive matchup against 7 of them, and none of them are that bad, right? Annie Gen is currently at 47%, Alawi Rallies is at 45%, and then Galio Bard is just basically a coin flip. And so I kind of like look at Fizz Riven as being the kind of cornerstone to our deck lineup here, and then we're just bringing this collection of decks that doesn't have any particularly bad matchups. Misfortune doesn't quite fit the bill, right? She probably lines up better as just being removed and playing with the Alawi Rally deck. But I love playing Scouts, and so that's what you get when you subscribe to this channel. But nonetheless, the way that I've kind of like set this up, and the way that I think if we're gonna kind of come after this strategy. And what we need to say is like, okay, well, what if opponent comes in and bans our Fizz, right? So I'm going to try and make this a little easier to see. I'll just black out the Fizz column. And I think this is the important thing to see here, right? The only space, if we have our Ziggs banned, or our Fizz banned out, that is like horrible across the board, is like Heimerdinger Jace is negative against both of our decks, and then Poppy Bard is negative against both of our decks. But, that's like such a small percentage of the meta, I don't feel like it's a big enough worry to say, like, if somebody shows up with both Heimerdinger Jace and they show up with Poppy Bard, then, congratulations, you caught us. And then, same deal applies here. Opponent says, hey, I'm afraid to play against your aggro deck. I don't want to do that. You can see things where it's like the Yuumi Pantheon matchup is bad for our remaining decks. The Poppy Bard matchup is bad for our remaining decks, but the remaining matchups across the board aren't terrible, right? We have at least one deck that should be able to beat the other deck, and then just for the sake of argument, you can see the same thing with the Scouts deck. We'll take it out of the equation. Our opponent bans Scouts because they're afraid of our misfortunes, and kind of the same deal. We have a couple of spaces to where both of the decks are in the negative, but across the majority of the matchups, things look pretty okay. And so that's kind of like my idea with what we're doing with this lineup, right? These decks, they're good against everything. There's not too many decks and too many matchups to where we say like, oh no, we're going to run into this space to where we need to ban like 2 decks. And so I think we should be pretty safe across the board. That's at least the strategy. Excuse me, the strategy that we're carrying into the Gauntlet today. And so, to just touch on the decks real quickly, I've made videos on all of these decks, and so I'll just take a quick moment to talk about each of them before we jump into the games. With Fizz Riven, I like to play the super all-in versions, and so we're not playing any Rainbow Fish. We're playing the full 3 copies of Papercraft Dragon, and I like to go for the OTK as fast as possible kind of strategy. And so we're playing the full 3 sets of Elixir of Wrath, the full 3 set of Might, and then all of the early and cheap units in here. And so this is more of the super all-in OTK style version of Fizz Riven. With our Annie Katarina Ziggs, this is the lineup, or the version of it that we played like 2 videos ago. Same thing. I was pretty happy with the list here. Nothing of note that we changed since then. And then the last one is the Scouts deck. And this is a pretty straightforward version of Scouts. The only thing I have to say about Scouts these days is the kind of thing that made Scouts really good was being able to kind of pick on your opponent's smaller units, right? And so if you want Misfortune to be good, you want to get like a challenge attack on your opponent's 1 health unit, or you want, say, your 2 cost unit to trade up into your opponent's 3, your 3 cost unit to trade up into your opponent's 4. And so you start to take advantage of things like that when you, say, play Mirai Warden. Mirai Warden's on the board with Misfortune. You might get to trade your 2 mana for your opponent's 6 mana or something like that. And so those situations aren't as common in this meta, right? That was the kind of thing you could pop up quite a bit of when you're playing against a lot of like Scouts, or not. We're playing Scouts if you're playing against a lot of, say, like Pirates or a lot of the Annie-based decks. But when you're playing against stuff like Alawi, it doesn't quite turn up as often. So where this is kind of going is I don't like to battle the kind of go with ideas. We aren't playing Cythria today. We're only playing a copy of Jin Vivi. And then I'm going to give one try to the Inspiring Light. I saw Mega Mogwai make a post about the Inspiring Light. It's a really tough place to follow anything from that guy. He speaks in such hyperbole that everything in the world is either the greatest thing ever or the worst thing ever, and there's never any middle ground. He never says, this card is the most medium card I've ever played. It's always either the best thing in the world or the worst. And Inspiring Light was noted as one of the things that he called the best thing in the world here recently. And so I want to give it a shot. I can envision some of these turns to where it's like turn 6 and we have a couple of spell mana built up and we play Jin Vivi and then we play Inspiring Light and we just get this big stat boost coming out of it. And I did want to take a moment. It is kind of an interesting card to me. If we would stop and say consider Magic, this card would be terrible. The thing you run into with Magic is you can put 100 units on the board if you want, or I guess 100 creatures, I should say. But in Runeterra, we're limited to 6, right? And so once you get to the point to where you have to start overriding your units, then what are you supposed to do? You don't really just want to play another unit. You don't want to just give away the card advantage. And so that's the kind of place where an Inspiring Light can really kind of come into power. And so in the kind of games of old, you would have to consider either A, does the stat boost I get from this outweigh the times when it doesn't do anything? Right, so those times when I get 10 stats out of Inspiring Light, does that make up for the times when I only get 2 or 4 or even 0? And then the other thing is you know the rewriting aspect, to where we wouldn't have to rewrite in Magic, but we do have to rewrite here. And so in Magic, you would traditionally just see things like, say, a card like Overrun might see play on occasion. That's the thing that gives all of your units 3/3 and Overwhelm or Trample. But they were always kind of played in very small quantities and in kind of a game finishing capacity. But what if we're playing Inspiring Light on just 3 units and getting 6 stats for 2 mana? It's not the worst deal that you could ever do. And so I'm not going like super all in. I'll be honest with you, and I haven't tested it yet. But I just took out a Shield of Durandi to give the Inspiring Light a try today. And we'll potentially get to see how this goes. Maybe it's not all hype and all hyperbole today. We'll see. But that takes us into the Gauntlet, and so you all know what we have to do. We do have to go and turn something premium, and I think it's appropriate to premium up the Inspired Light. We spent 20 minutes talking about it there, and so why not make it extra good and give it the premium treatment? And so we are ready to go now. We've got our decks lined up. We've got our premiums sorted out. Just got to find the play button and we'll jump on in. So, Dragonfish, welcome to the squad. Hot in here with the Annies and the Scout decks, ready to come to battle. Okay. And all right, the opponent has turned up. And so, interesting set. It's weird seeing, I don't know if I've ever seen the Zillion turn up with Lysandra Talia. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. But to a degree, what I would say is going on here is this deck to the right should just be a Sundisk deck of some sort. More than happy to battle the Sundisk with anything in our lineup. So we can let that one stay. We're pretty well tooled to deal with the Sundisk. The things that do start to worry me over here are, like, our matchups against Lysandra Talia aren't horrible. Like, the matchups for Scouts is pretty bad, right? If we pull up our little thing, it's not even that bad. It's just a negative matchup slightly. And so I think we can let it stay. I was a little bit more worried about, I don't really know what's coming out of this Misfortune Aurelia deck. I'm sure it's trying to do some kind of like Blade Dance thing. Probably has some Buru Scouts in it or something, but it's the deck that actually worries me the most here. We tend to like struggle if our opponent is like, hey, here's my gigantic Overwhelm unit, deal with it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and take that one out. And then from our typical kind of strategy in Gauntlet, I feel like I just like to take the worst deck twice. And so I feel like if we have to play Scouts twice, I would rather do that than have to play Riven Fizz twice. I feel like Riven Fizz is going to be the deck that is strongest against everything that he's bringing at us. Hey, there's the Inspiring Light in a hand we can't keep anything with, and so let's just go ahead and full mulligan. Got to find some cheaper plays out here. All right, not horrible. Not bad, but not horrible. Not good, but not amazing. No one drops and no Sundust, or no misfortune is kind of the sad thing that this one has going for it. And so I'm going to lead with the Durandi Sculptor, assuming that we don't find a misfortune here. We didn't, and so let's get the Sculptor down. We can't attack this turn anyways, and then we can start coming in with the Broadwing. Of course, we immediately draw misfortune. That's the way life's meant to be. I should have known. I should have led with the Broadwing, just knowing that we were going to draw misfortune. All right, Duder, what you got for us? Are you just going to take 6? Or are you going to get in front of the Broadwing? Looks like he's going for the take 6 plan. And he drops an Azir. Sure. So we should be in a decent spot to contest the Azir on our next attack. Like, unless, you know, we draw something pretty compelling here, we're going to look to just drop the Island Navigator on this upcoming turn. And then we'll go with Misfortune and Brightsteel Protector, most likely, on the follow-up turn. We'll see. We're in a pretty decent space here. It's like where we'd like to pick up a spell. But this is the kind of board where I'm talking about where Inspiring Light would have some potential, right? Say we have the two spell mana banked up here. We play the Island Navigator, it gets us to 4 units. Then we play the Bright Steel and the Misfortune, or even if we needed to fill out the board, say we lose a unit here, we could play the Mirai Warden and Misfortune, and then get the full 6 stat bonus on the Inspiring Light. And so it's just, you know, as we as we run into these kind of awkward spots to where we have a completely full board, you can run into some serious value with the Inspiring Light. Maybe he's onto something. I don't know. But you know, if your opponent's playing a much more interactive deck and you're struggling just to keep up on board, like if your opponent's playing Pirates or something and we're just trading back and forth over and over again, then you're not going to be really happy with that Inspiring Light in that matchup. But when we're out here playing against the Sundusk and they can't like contest our board, then it's going to look much better. Little reinforcement at the seams. Here we go. Man, he doesn't even have any units big enough to contest our little bark beast. All right. The Rockhopper certainly doesn't contest. The Misfortune will take him down if he blocks. Just getting domed. Okay. Siphoning Strike. That's a little unfortunate. Now we can't take down his Azir with the Petricite Broadwing. But otherwise, I think I still want to get into business with Azir here. So I think I want to drop the Bright Steel onto our bird, and then just go ahead and hook Azir. His blocks are going to be pretty terrible across the board, and so let's just go ahead and try and wear out his stats and see how he wants to block. But still, the Rockhopper just dies to the Love Tap, and then the Devoted Council can block, but it can't kill anything on the return. Getting pretty close. A rally would seal this up pretty easily. Curious where we would have gotten with the Inspiring Light there. Would have had some real promise. This looks like a world for Demacia. We could, of course, overwrite the Vanguard Sergeant, but I don't feel like that's going to be necessary. I'm really just looking to have this high-powered turn next turn. Well, it would be short on mana. I was like, well, it would be kind of tempting to drop a Scout unit, but we don't have the stats to do, or the mana to do that. Now Genvivi? I think we just go for the raw stats here in the Fort Demacia. Would be nice to get the additional Scout unit, but I think this should be pretty tough to overcome. God, here comes this big boom of a card. This has to be a big one. Has to be something good. Thinking about it real hard. Maybe he dropped his phone in the toilet. Sitting there playing at work, trying to. That's an ambitious move if you're at work. Just play anything. Even if this is a Spirit Fire, I could not care less. But he's playing at work. He's a bold brother. He's trying to fit in a gauntlet on the shitter at work. He runs into battle against the old FTP bust and runs into some immediate problems. Fuck. This is gonna be a terrible shit break. But we should be good now. Assuming we get to attack with the Misfortune, the Love Tap, or whatever the level 3 is called. Bullet Time will be enough just to get a kill. Alright, this looks pretty done. We've seen a unit die, right? I'm pretty sure we have. But alright, neg 33 coming in. Drops it to a neg 27. Here comes a Spirit Fire. give a little bit of boost, but not enough.
That's how we do things in Bilgewater.
Cool. We got ourselves a win. God, I love Fizz Riven. This is the kind of all-in deck everyone should enjoy. Just coming out here slamming some dragons on stuff. Feels good. Feels good. I don't remember. I wanted to see what the matchup table looks like against Lysandra Talia. It's slightly positive. I know historically that Fizz Riven was one of those decks that was designed with the Sun Disk in mind. This was one of the really initial decks that came out here and looked to just destroy the Sun Disk in ways that they can't interact with. But with a hand like this, I'm looking for either two things, right? I want some early game interaction, so I either want like a really quick curve, or if that doesn't come together, then I want to look for the fairy plan. The what are you called? Oh shit! Hang on. Do we just go for the fairy plan? We probably can't. There. That feels better now. Now I'm ready for the fairy plan. Nice little upgrade from Riven into Runeweaver into Riven. Up a papercraft, okay. Sure. Picked up the old quick attack. Should be okay. I mean, we can just like slam Riven onto the board if we want. She should be a safe attack next turn with this quick attack if we really want to. Do we care any differently now? Like if he takes down Riven, how bad is this? It's not ideal. Let's just go ahead and drop Grandfather Fae. If he wants to take a trade, it's okay. I don't think this is the space to where we need to like load up and go all in on the Owlcat, but the option is there. We'll at least go ahead and full protect Riven on this turn. Pokey Stick. It's like I'm never like really impressed with Pokey Stick these days, but if opponent's gonna be out here playing Bloodthirsty Marauders, then it's gonna overperform. That's certainly the case. Uh-oh, dude. Yeah, I hope I have my emotes loaded. Oh my god. Fuck this up so bad. I'm embarrassed right now. I've got to go and fix this after this game. I don't know why y'all even bother with this shit. Why would you even watch one of these videos? Embarrassing. Alright, maybe we will be getting set up on the Owlcat. We can go ahead and drop the Papercraft onto it. Next turn, we can load up Riven. We'll get the third fragment to get the Riven sword. We can drop the entirety of the sword and the +2 attack onto the Owlcat, and then we should be pretty good to go at that point. This attack is advisable never. Wasn't quite sure what was happening with that one. Okay, so quick attack. Do we want to load this all on Riven? Like, do I want to play the physical Riven sword onto Riven is the question. So that she gets the extra stat boost. We're going to put the +2. We probably want to just make the full 7 attack Hungry Owlcat. So here, Overwhelm goes to Riven. We get the sword, and then the sword will go on the Owlcat. Should be pretty good. Get in there, bruh. You look like a very wonderful and happy Owlcat out here. Uh-oh. He has the right of negation for the sword. That's okay. We still have this 14 double tack Overwhelm. Or 14 damage thing coming in. We'll figure out the wording eventually, but... So he's out of mana. I kind of want to play something. We can't play Face Sprouts. There's not any one-cost Fae that we would want to pick up here, but we can't get an attack in with a Blade Squire. So he has a decent block with a Azir onto Riven. He can put the Soothsayer in front of the Owlcat to prevent a bit. Uh-oh. Did we lose out? Oh, we did lose out on our Overwhelm. That's why that was a pain in the ass. Okay. I didn't stop to consider. I just assumed this game was done. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Kims is bringing a little bit of thunder on us here. I thought that we had the Overwhelm already. It's my bad. My bad. We're good now. Just give me a turn. I'll find that Overwhelm. I mean, let's be real, it's pretty okay even if he has another Rite of Negation. Now, I'm not entirely sure how this works. Like, I know, at least from a practical standpoint, we can put the Riven into combat right now, and then... like, we're just lethal, so he has to do something, so we can still follow up with the Might. But I don't entirely remember if we would need to preemptively load up Riven with the Might. I know I saw, if you're familiar with Conanson, he puts out quite a bit of work out there. He maintains the rule book for the game, if you will. I saw a tweet from him about... how Cataclysm works now in comparison to some of the other spells. And I'm not entirely sure how that interaction there works. If we get to play the fast spell, the unit comes down. Then when we are given the opportunity to make plays, I have to ask about that. Put that on my to-do list. Oh, it's just the one deck that's messed up, isn't it? Annie's ready to go. She's got all the things. Oh, the poor scouts. Jeez, that was embarrassing. I'll use Reckoner's Arena. I switch between it and the arcade, you know. Get these all fixed. This is what people come here for. If you didn't know how to emote, you're about to learn. I have all of the best ones. And they're set up perfectly, and so if you were never certain which emotes to use, this should be a pretty good primer on how to do that. We'll switch to the arcade for the Fizz Riven. Why not? Card back's got to find the fist bump, and then into the emotes. We want to use Twisted Fate. Celebrate Pride a little bit with Twisted Fate. You could do that. It's this bottom left one down here that we're never locked in on which ones we want to use. We'll bring Twisted Fate for one. All right. Good deal. Back and battle. Round 2 begin. Okay, it's a little sloppy, but we got through it just fine. That's what happens. It's my first matches of the day. I didn't get any warm-up reps in this morning, and so it was kind of tough. And okay, and so in seeing these things, this was one of those matchups to where I know we're gonna have to just come in and ban the Bard Zed, right? This is one of those things to where if you take a quick peek at the thing, oh, maybe it's not bad. Is it not bad? I just don't have data on any Ziggs. Is that the problem? Oh, that's Zoe Bard. Okay, where is Bard Zed in here? I thought this was one of like the ones that had a pretty strong matchup against all of our decks. No, it's just strong against Annie Ziggs. Okay, that's fine. I think we can leave in Scouts, and I don't think Annie Gen, like, Annie Gen just always strikes me as being one of the worst decks ever. And so I'm not super worried about it. Let's just come out here and try and ban out the mirror match. I assume this is the kind of space to where they'll try and they'll probably just never ban Scouts, but then they'll look to ban either Annie Gen or ban Fizz Riven. Oh, everybody bans the Scouts. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, let's take the big the Annie deck in first. Again, if I have to play a deck multiple times, I want it to be not Fizz Riven. I think Fizz Riven is our best deck, and so it can be the decider for us. It's probably not super ideal against Bard Zed with this Annie deck. Was that one of the smaller win rate matchups in here? It's like, yeah, it's whatever against Annie Ziggs. It's slightly favored, but I'm gonna pull out all the stops, pull out all the cards. We're on the play, and so we should just automatically win, right? But okay, if you're not familiar with our strategies in terms of the Annie Ziggs deck, the way I always recommend how to do this is if you don't know what play to make or what cards to put on the board, then just go for the route that puts the most stats on the board, that just does the most damage, and then you want to be mulliganing into sets to where you spend all 6 mana in your first 3 turns on units. And so that can kind of conflict a little bit in terms of, say we drew a 1-drop here. Fuck. Then we would be in this space to where the way that we deal the most damage is by putting 2 1s down, but then we may not get to spend all of our mana on the next turn. And so it can be a little tough in that sense. But we're pretty hosed now. This is the high rolliest aspect of the game that there is. Can you hit a chime onto your Navori Brigand? And he did it. You know, that kind of is what it is. You get 10 stats for 2 mana if you can high roll like a boss, and they did it. So, just a disaster of draws as well in terms of this Demolitionist killing off our only play. I was hoping to just draw like actual anything in the meantime, but couldn't pull that off either. So we're just going to be in a space now to where we just have to send all the burn to face. We're fairly close to just doing it that way, right? We've got 6, 10, 12 burn in hand. We just need to get in for 6 damage otherwise. And so we might be able to pull something off. Maybe. Let's give it another turn, I guess. We could have played Decimate there, but I still want to hang on to some of this mana. This is a pretty pivotal turn. If we're able to attack with the Ruin Runner and have it not die, that's pretty big. But so you can see in this space, even if we hadn't had such a awkward draw with the Decimate, Double Nox, and Fervor, Demolitionist that we can't play, if you're coming down and making trades onto their units, it's not that bad. But when we're in this space to where they have the Brigand for the immediate 2-for-1 and they get to trade 2 mana for like 4 or 5 of our mana, it's just insane-o to come back from.
It's too late for you.
Okay. Oh, more cards? Shadow Shift, absolutely. So we're going to lose our unit, but chunk in for 3. That's fine. I want to see if he spends a little bit more mana before we try and pop this Zed. No. Like we're not going to get the not going to give us the opportunity. Okay, good job. And so this is what it is. You know, it sucks to have these matchups to where you go, oh, you high rolled, good job. But like I would even rather them hit the chime on Zed than hit on the brigand on turn 2. But that's one of the skills you have to pick up with these games. Not being like ultra lucky, it certainly doesn't help. But you just got to be able to brush those games off and keep moving on. If you've ever gotten used to just climbing in the ladder, it's mainly about just playing a bunch of games over and over again. And so, the way that I kind of see that, it's like, okay, they played Bard, they played the Brigand, and then it's like, I know I did it. I just went, okay. Good job, bud. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, on to the Annie Gen. Reasonable enough start. All the bros coming down. Nice looking curve right there. And so this one kind of better illustrates what I was trying to talk about in the previous game. Is to where if we're going to say like, okay, I want to take the path that just deals the most damage. I want to lead with the Legion Saboteur. And that puts us in the space on turn 2. Is like, are we going to deal more damage with Annie and the Bakai Reaper, or are we going to deal more damage with the Legion Grenadier? It's tough to say. And then as we roll into turn 3, if we do plan to play 2 1-drops here, can we still spend 3 mana on units on this next turn? Here we can, right? Because we just picked up the Treasure Seeker. And so we'll go for the 3 1-drops. The Bakai Reaper has the opportunity to become a 2-attack unit here. So, not a bad Sunhawk, I'll give you that. Get in for that point. Boom him real good, Bakai Reaper. You got to bring that fearsome for us. Interesting. I think we want to... well, we can still get the shutdown here with the Legion Grenadier, right? This should probably be enough to convince him not to attack. And we still have this Treasure Seeker if we want to. Next turn, having like 5 mana doesn't do too much for us. We're definitely going to play Merciless Hunter next turn. But let's wait and see what he tries to get into here. And Lotus Trap. That should go onto our Annie. So if we want, it's like we have the option to. I think like we're starting to take a pretty healthy amount of damage here. I think we have to at least block the Boom Crew Rookie, and then we can now look to say Merciless Hunter Annie next turn. So it's like as it is, none of his blocks with the Boom Crew Rookie are gonna be any good. Is Annie gonna flip? Looks like she's trying to get real close. And so the new question is, do we want to actually like protect our Bakai Reapers here from these 3-attack units? I think that's just like way too greedy. This Annie's getting pretty close to flipping. And if he gets a Tibbers, that's going to be a serious problem. And so we're going to lose some amount of units here, but there is a definite like pause for thought if we want to punch in with our fearsome squad and then just take down the Tusk Speaker. All right, so we want it to look like this. Our strongest Reaper on the left. All of our fearsomes coming in. Annie kills everything that he has. This looks pretty good. And then if he wants to take a trade for our Treasure Seeker, it's just the worst unit that we have. Coming into neg 12. Seems pretty good. Okay, so I mean, he's got Jen in hand, not too worried about it. His next activated ability will pop off the trap, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal. I think we're pretty okay here. You should have a pretty tough time dealing 12. Oh, there. That's a little better with the Treasure Seeker. Oh, the Treasure Seeker's the one about to get stunned, right? No? Who's the Lotus Trap even? Oh, his Jen's not on board. Okay. I get confused with the Path of Champions and how the sequencing is happening out there. But this is fine. Feels like a pretty all-in-y kind of desperation play. Double Nox and Fervor directed at units. Okay. Fine by me.
Chase what you want without mercy.
All right. Annie prevails. Good job. Good job, girl. I felt so bad when we were making the Annie video. I made like an express point to call out that you'll probably never flip her. She is capable of like flipping in some of these games as she comes down on turn 1 and you're on the play and you have a draw that just kind of like works out with it and your opponent doesn't interact with her. But don't like expect to be coming out and flipping Annie. It's not that common. And then of course we flipped Annie in the first game we did in the video. It's like oops. Oops. All right. How did the matchup look for Fizz Riven? It seems like it should be okay against Annie Jen. Slightly unfavored. Yeah. I'm curious how much this comes down to being on the play versus being on the draw and trying to just pop off on that immediately as fast as possible. But hang on to the Riven. We need to get this sword going fast, and we need to get some early plays. So I'm just going to hard mulligan outside of the Riven for our reforges. We certainly picked him up here.
I have my orders.
To serve the greater good.
Good job, bros. Ooh, no attack. Just the big shutdown on the first turn. That's great. That's great.
These hands know written and magic.
Okay. It's like I don't think they have great ways to interact with Riven. I think what's coming out of this deck, it's going to be like predominantly stuns, right? And just like deciding if I want to play Riven now or just go for like a Rune Weaver so we can start trying to face sprout a little bit. I think I just want to get Riven like what their ideal kind of like plan is going to be is we go like all in on the sword and then they just stun within the same turn. And I think we want to come out and just try to build up and focus on perhaps just getting a Owlcat as our target. Did we hit quick attack? We did. So let's go ahead and bring some of this thunder. Our Riven's protected. I'll trade anything with the Rune Weaver. Looks pretty okay with me, but I don't want to give them the opportunity to again like stun one of these units right when we play it. And then we could, like, I'm kind of interested in what fragment would turn up on our next turn, because we can, like, put the sword down on our opponent's turn, and then on our turn, be ready with something like Elixir of Wrath. I don't think we're going to be able to pull that off. We just need to get some dudes down right here. I'm fine with trading away the Grandfather Fae. We can wallop down something if we want. Let's just not die, right? That feels pretty good, not dying. I'm pretty on board with that whole concept.
Approach, savage.
I've got the reins.
Okay, so his board goes away. We still have a Riven. We got the hungry Owlcat that we can start to drop now. Looks pretty good. I think the question starts to come down to, where's our dragon? I think I want to, like, start in with an attack this turn, but, like, I can't remember. I think this deck does play some amount of things like, like Scorched Earths and Ravenous Flocks. I think they play Ravenous Flocks, so I'm not, like, really excited about going big on this Riven. But I think we can still look to build up something. We can, of course, burst this out and look to see if we can't find a dragon right from the get-go. We didn't pick one up. That's okay. He's fairly drained on resources here. I'm looking towards just going for the Librarian and then building up just a little bit slower. Right, again, I don't expect this Riven to make it through the turn. And so if we picked up a Papercraft Dragon and we could put it on the Owlcat, that would be a little scary for opponent, but not something that we need to have happen to have a good game here. Got Jin in hand. That makes me feel pretty safe. So I'm going to put Quick Attack on Riven. I'm going to put Overwhelm on the Assistant Librarian, and then we still have a pretty decent attack. So Overwhelm here. Quick Attack here. Do we want to go ahead and just +2 attack? Oh, we're out of mana. Okay. I wouldn't mind it, but we ran out of mana today. It's okay.
Routes closed.
Ooh, that's good. No flock coming in. His only card is Jin. We're in a pretty commanding position now.
Don't think I know that one.
Cool. There's the dragon.
I will showcase the beauty of tragedy.
We've already got the Overwhelm fragment in hand, so we can just slam in with the Owlcat for about 1 million, give or take, plus or minus. Oh, that makes sense.
Your adoring public awaits.
Then shouldn't be anything you can draw next turn to cause too many problems, right?
Carry your own gear.
You inspire.
All right, let's start to bring it. Ooh, Friendship was a big draw. So +2 attack, that's going to get the flip on Riven. I'm not going to play the actual Riven sword this turn. Just not going to be fast enough. Got him. Ripped it. GG.
I know what I must do.
Cool. Right, next battle. Hope y'all are doing okay out there. It's fucking hot out here. Getting all sweaty, as you can tell. I went to the grocery today, and the walk from the entrance to the grocery store to the car got sweaty. And so it's tough. It's tough out there. But all right, back to this. I always get so weirded out when I see these these Tom Kench Sorakas. It's probably what we should just be banning, but it's like I know that deck's dog shit. But this is the space to where my ultimate worry is that Scouts is bad against both Pantheon and Soraka Tom Kench. Like, and then the thing that worries me a little bit harder is like his likely ban is going to be the Annie deck. The Annie deck is relatively strong against Pantheon. If he's playing under this idea that he's going to get to like Scouts is the one that's like gonna stick up, but then like if he's going to consider what I'm going to ban, I think it has to be one of these two on the middle or the right. The Scouts matchup against Lissandra Talia is not great, but it's serviceable. The Scouts matchup against Pantheon and against Soraka is not good at all. But like I think our Pantheon matchup is just like pretty bad across the board. What's that middle deck? Annie Ziggs actually has a good Pantheon match, but that's what we're expecting to get banned. And this is the one that leaves us in that spot to where we actually have two bad matchups. So exactly as we expected. So now, like, I think we're gonna struggle with this match, but hopefully the Soraka deck's just bad enough to where it doesn't matter that much. But I mean, it's still going to be good against a lot of what we're bringing. So I do feel like a little okay if like what we're trying to pull off is running beating the Talia deck twice. Maybe that's a possibility. But here, like I like the go big kind of aspects against the Soraka deck. The way that the gameplay kind of goes and the way you need it to work out is that you start with just like a full board and then you do everything in one turn. And so I'm going to start with the Durandi Sculptor. It's like I'm kind of half tempted to even hang on to the likes of the Vanguard Sergeant just because it's so important in terms of it's just so important in terms of giving you that big knockout turn. But let's see how this turns out. Boxtopus is fine. He was kind of an expected play. I think I want to go ahead and offer up the trade. I don't... He can just block with the Star Shepherd. I think the kind of like limiting factor here though is we can, like if he doesn't open, we can Bright Steel our Durandi Sculptor and get it out of trouble.
Right, that's my job. Shepherding, I mean. My shield is yours.
Be at peace.
Okay. Don't really want to put damage onto Soraka. That's going to get us in the space to where she's just like healing and we can't actually kill her. This is pretty decent onto the Boxtopus though. Go ahead and take it down and then leave him with the board that is completely healed. Again, we need to be like finding Genvivi. There she is. Or we need to be finding things like the For Demacia Maker. So what I'm looking to do here, my plan is to play Quinn next turn. So we'll have Quinn on board, and then we'll follow up with Genvivi on our turn, and try and just get this gigantic scout attack coming in. We're, kind of canceling his game plan a little bit. He's going to get to flip Soraka this turn, but we should be fairly strong after this turn. We can block some of this stuff now. We're kind of forced into it. Maybe we should have played one more unit with the anticipation of putting in blocks this turn.
Got a model for me?
Star Spring's pretty low, but I think we're healthy enough outside of this one block, and he probably has a Pale Cascade or something here. But yeah, I'm feeling like pretty sad that we didn't get one additional unit down. Probably Fleet Feather Tracker would be the one that we wanted on board.
A little reinforcement at the seams.
It's starting to be a scary Star Shepherd. I'll give him that.
The quiet of the woods. There's nothing like it.
Gonna shut down our Quinn from attacking even when she even when she has 8 health. Yeah, definitely a bummer that we don't have the tracker on board.
Hold nothing back.
We'll see if we can take down this Soraka. It's like a fairly scary turn. If he has a second Astral Protection, then we've probably just lost the game. Wish? Yeah.
Stars, fear me. We look after our own.
Are we just dead now? What's the Star Spring at? 15? Yeah.
These woods belong to us.
Okay. It is what it is. Man, damn. I was hoping to really hit the 4 Demacia Maker here. That's the big problem that we're facing in this game.
Stay still.
Okay, and then what we're trying to do here is just keep the damage low. And so I don't want him getting like full heals to the point to where he pops off the Star Spring this turn. And so I'm trying to just come out here and block with 2 attack units to keep the damage on his things as low as we can. Like, we don't have to block the Codger, we don't have to block Soraka, we do have to block the Star Shepherd, but we can ideally, you know, keep this at a small amount of health heal. Interesting. He's probably going to come in and take down Quinn. Oh. Weird. Okay.
We look after our own.
Not quite sure what happened there. Oh, fuck. I played the wrong one. Meant to play Genvivi. I don't know if it would have mattered if we would have had enough that we could do here, but that's definitely a disaster. Genvivi would be able to hook the Codger. We'd still send Valor into the Boxtopus. Fuck. Alright. But man, that was another one of those games to where I'm really kind of interested in having Inspiring Light. We're getting so stacked with units in hand now that the meta is kind of far away from just like, you know, playing pirates. Like I think the perfect example is when we played against that Annie deck, as to where we have these boards to where everyone's getting in combat with like 5 units, and we killed 5 of theirs and he killed 4 of ours. Landing on those kind of spots with is like where the Inspiring Light is pretty terrible. But playing against some of these other matchups is where it seems kind of nice. And so here, I don't want to have Rangers Resolve. It's like it works against Avalanche. It doesn't work against Blighted Ravine. I'm just going to hang on to the Broadwing. You can perhaps get rid of the Bright Steel, but it's too easy to get like a good trade in the early game with the Bright Steel. And so we'll hang on to it for the moment here. Okay. I want to go fast. Let's get our Broadwing down. The biggest damage source we have, and it also survives Blighted Ravines.
No prey, no pay.
No prey, no pay. All right, well, we got the scout draw. We're doing scout stuff. And so hopefully that's enough. This is where we'll stop. Like, if he just passes back to us, we'll come in for the full amount of mana. But if he starts spending stuff and getting out of AoE range, then we'll slam in for an attack. So we're coming in for the full amount here. Looks like he's going to spend some mana and spend some cards on getting Frozen Thralls going. He shouldn't be able to flip it this turn. He would need multiple cards that would come in and let him count down, right? He would need a the 1 mana thing and the 2 mana thing, and he already played the 2 mana thing. Sorry for not remembering the card names, but that's what he would need in that space, and it's kind of make it kind of tough for him to have.
Keep your eyes on the horizon and your feet on the ground.
Interesting. Oh my gosh, if he has the imagined possibilities, this is horrible. That's the 1 mana thing, but if he doesn't have it, then we'll win the game. So let's see if he pops off 3 thralls or if we win. What you gonna do for me, game? All right, looks like pop off 3 thralls isn't the answer. So we get into the big one.
That's why I'm the captain.
Yeah, I got cut away. Man, that heat. I know it's not the same everywhere, but it seems like it is getting to be the same everywhere. If you want some life tips, don't vacation in the summer. It's fucking hot. You got to be outside walking around and everything. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay, so, I mean, we're starting off with a Fizz, which is kind of enough. I'd really prefer to be pushing more towards the win. And, like, the Fizz is nice because what's going to happen is we're going to try and go for the big Papercraft Dragon play, and they're going to say her Dur here is a Frostbite. And so he doesn't get around, like, the Frostbite play, but he does get around them trying to get a targetable play in on him. Let's get rid of him, though. I'm going to hang on to the Squire and then look for these. Look for Riven, look for the Reforges. We found that Reforge squad again.
Wandering and there's rocks in me boat.
Coming right for it.
I'll show the hunters.
Okay, doesn't start off with a Frozen Thrall. No play here. Interesting. All right, well, I'm going to add stuff to the board. Now, the spot where this is touchy is if he has a Avalanche, then this kind of sucks. But if his play is like a Blighted Ravine, then it's fine. Lysandra is fine. The downside to this is, like, a lot of times you just want to be making an open attack there, right? But I didn't really want to be missing out on the token. So we're like in more of a tough space here now with our Riven slightly damaged, but might be okay. He plays Curator, sure. Didn't hit anything we really want. Kind of okay with going with Swole Squirrels, just because it has that, kind of health attached to it. The other option is, if we're going to punch in for an open attack next turn, then Pix isn't that bad. Pix does help us get Riven out of range. I kind of feel like if he had an Avalanche, he would have just played it, right? So let's go a little all in here. I'm gonna pick up the Pix. She's still safe to play because she does survive the AoE, but I'm a little worried here. I do want to just kind of spew off this Runeweaver, though. He goes for the imagined possibilities, but he takes the generate and not the countdown. Interesting. Well, he's out of Avalanche range now, so I'm going to go for the Runeweaver. That was interesting. So what are we going to do with this next turn? We have a couple of options, right? We're going to open. We have 5 mana. If we want to play Might, then that leaves us in a space to where we can only play 2 tokens and we can't flip Riven. I think I'm fine with Riven flipping. And then if he has to spend a bunch of mana on a flash freeze, then that's pretty okay. So I'm going to go with the Overwhelm. I'm going to go with the Quick Attack. I'm going to put the +2 attack on our smallest unit. Looks like it's going to be Pix. Then we'll bring the squad in. We can interact like a little bit with this pokey stick, but let's be real, that doesn't particularly count. we can deal 1 damage to his tough unit, and that's just not going to do anything. But there's the 3 sisters, sure. Big investment in the mana to shut down this Riven. Right, so now there's not a ton that they can do with this turn. Second flash freeze, absolutely. So he'll block something with Lysandra. I guess that is like little dangerous, blocking one of our flash frozen units with Lysandra. I'm curious why he's actually not getting her into combat right now. Like, I think it's, you know, fairly safe to say he doesn't have an AoE unless he just immediately draws it. And then, is he like really on the plan of powering out multiple thralls this turn? He's going to get at least 1.
I live and die for you alone, my lady.
Okay, well, he's pretty out of mana now. So our new question is, I want to put this Riven sword down somewhere, but not on Riven. And so what's going to be our best option? It has to be picks, right? I don't want to put the sword on a 1 health unit and then have that unit get hit with an ice shard. Man, maybe we should have picked up the shield from the tiny spear to play around the ice shard. That's a very real thing that we perhaps should have done. Let's see what we pick up. Maybe we'll pick up something interesting with the pokey stick. There's no reason to not play it first. Another unit. Okay. So we've got the quick attack. Can't remember if we're like coin flipping on an overwhelm. We want to hit overwhelm for Riven. We can like weapon hilt and then guarantee that we hit it. But man, I feel like maybe the ice shard won't bring us down, but that's what feels like the thing that's going to bring us down is if he has a Lysandra in hand or if he has a physical ice shard in hand.
No more hesitation.
But we got a lot of boom power in hand here. It's like he's played 1/3 sisters, and so like we do have the potential to wallop whatever is blocking either Pix or blocking Riven. And Fizz. Fizz, you would have been fairly interesting if we had the option to open with you, but that's just not where we're at. So the thing with this attack, we want to have 3 overwhelm units, right? We have the 1 in Pix. We're only going to get 2, aren't we, though? Quick attack. We can pick up a new fragment with the weapon hilt. Then we do have to just overwhelm Riven. Oh, we have the might. That's where the 3rd one's coming from. I thought I had it in my brain that we had options for a 3rd overwhelm. And we do. It's with the might. So we have 6 mana. We can play 1 more mana this turn. Now we can bring in the squad.
Finally, some action.
Ready, Hammer?
Right, so we have a potential wallop play. A wallop through an overwhelm. Neg 2 attack. That's pretty brutal, but it limits his ability to target some of our stuff. We can go all in on one of our units now and be pretty confident that it's going to be okay. Right, this wallop through Riven gets us a free 6 damage. I think we're okay here. I think we spread out our damage well enough. Game says neg 8, opponent has 7. Got him. Nice. Way to navigate those bad matchups, Bust. You're pretty much the best player in the world. GG. GG. All right, make our way into this final battle. It's been a while. We've been failing in these final battles. I know in like the last week of Gauntlets, I was on vacation, so I didn't get to play any. And the week before that, I'm pretty sure I lost both of them. So we just have the one Prime Glory right now. Gotta catch up. And okay, this is more along the lines of what I would kind of expect to see. The Lysandra Talia, the Viego Katarina, and then Bard Galio. Bard Galio does worry me a little bit with how our matchups look. I'm not sure if that's one that actually turns up on the thing. It's pretty good against scouts. Like I assume that what we're going to run into is everyone is just going to leave scouts, and that puts me in the spot to where like we probably want to be banning out Viego. And then I assume that again we're going to get a matchup table kind of like this, as to where we're gonna ban Viego, then we'll have this Lysandra Talia at the top, which Fizz Riven is okay against, and then kind of the same space. Where's the other one? I don't remember what it was. Lysandra Talia and then Galio Bard. But I think this is fine. But again, this is like what I don't want to see, is I don't want scouts up against the Viego. Just a nightmare of a matchup. Nobody's respecting the Fizz Riven though. It's interesting to me. Like I'm curious. It's just like the Annie deck is kind of like the new hot and popular thing, and if that's why people are banning it. But I still wholeheartedly believe that the Fizz Riven deck is just the best deck in the format. I preach it. Nobody wants to listen. It's playing all those Stony suppressors a while ago. Nobody wanted to play them either. Nobody wants to follow along. But all right, this is like little disaster here. We really need to pick up a 2-drop so we can fully curve out. It's not the end of the world if we don't, but it's certainly painful not having the full curve against the Thrall's deck. Is he ever like attacking here? This seems like I don't know. It's like if I was the Thrall players looking at this board, I would just say never. Like I'm never attacking and just staying back on the defensive. But I'm curious if they actually come in and give us the opportunity to get around. And then I guess like part 2 of that question is like, how indicative is that of them having an AoE, right? If he says, okay, I want to put the Vanguard Sergeant down into AoE range, so I'm going to make an attack. Yeah, this is what makes sense to me, is the no attack.
Looking for trouble? It found you.
Not super ideal. This was a fairly weak curve coming out of us, but maybe we have enough to power through. The potential for like a real strong turn 7 with both Jhin VV and Golden Aegis. Just going to be very dependent on how much he can ramp through these thralls. Going to protect Misfortune here. We need our mana to be spent on units. And so, yes, we have another Misfortune that we could just immediately drop the next turn, but we really need to be in this spot to where it's like we draw a 2-drop, we play the Sergeant, we play the 2-drop, and then we hit with a Jhin VV. Like, this draw hasn't been particularly good, but that's how you go about winning these games. We could look to Golden Aegis this turn. How bad is this with him hitting the Draklorn? There's not a lot we can do. I would like to have this flipped Misfortune next turn, but I don't even feel like that's enough. I guess the thing here is we can potentially take down the Draklorn. Let's see this actually. Right, if we put the Golden Aegis on Misfortune, attack with both, he blocks with the Draklorn, he takes 3 from the Sergeant, 1 from the Love Tap, and then we get to make it rain the Inquisitor away. That's huge. That's huge. And then that still leaves us in a potential spot to flip our Misfortune next turn.
As she wills it.
You really got to make that attack? That would feel pretty good to me. If he actually attacks us, that gets us in a spot to where we wouldn't lose any units. Like this way, we're going to lose a unit, right? But we had some potential to, like if he attacks with the Draklorn, maybe like. I'm curious how I feel like just attacking with Misfortune here. I think he never blocks if we do that. Whereas this gets us in a pretty good spot now, right? No thralls for you, LOL. Now, how do we feel about this new situation? Like, we don't have any ways to play around an AoE. So let's just go ahead and drop Jin Vivi. We could potentially say, like, Island Navigator, just so that we have the 2 units on board to attack with, but Jin Vivi should be pretty safe here.
My strength is yours.
Opponent is now bamboozled. Things did not go well. He was fully expecting to have the Draculorn Inquisitor on board and Frozen Thralls on board now. Now he's got to kind of find a way around it. 3 Sisters onto Jin Vivi. I was thinking about that. If he wants to play the Frozen Thrall, not Frozen Thrall, Entomb, that's pretty fine. So we don't get to flip Misfortune, but we get a healthy chunk of damage in. And now he's going to have to do like a lot of work on this next turn. He needs 3 Thralls on board just to threaten lethal. And we should be able to attack around this stuff.
Come on in.
We're gonna hit a burn spell off the Conservator, and that's how we're gonna win the game. Promising future. Okay, that's fine. I think we just win here. I guess he can like throw down 2 units next turn. Like he can pretty immediately hit with the Frozen Thrall. Looks like he's going to hit at the start of the turn. But we are also going to have this Jin Vivi pop right back. And then I think she boosts our squad, right? It summons the thing back, so we should get the bonuses. Huh. Well, if our only trade was at Misfortune, I'd be more tempted to take this. But it's like if we could get that unit off of the board, that would have been pretty big. Do we bring the whole squad? So, like, I'm really, I think, mainly interested in getting this 6 damage in for Misfortune and hitting with the love taps twice. It gives us a bit of range to, let's say that he just completely fills out the board with Frozen Thralls. However that comes about, we can still say, like, for Demacia, our 2/2 unit down here, and then still, like, punch in the 6 damage with Misfortune, punch in a little bit of damage with our 2/2. Get lots of options that way, but let's see what he drops here. You don't have to worry about things like Buried in the Ice. Dumb stuff like that, but I think we're pretty okay here. He plays Lysandra. Okay. So he gets tough on the Nexus. That's a little unfortunate. But all of our units are very scary now. GG. Good job, Scouts. I knew you had it in you, Misfortune. No one gives you the respect you deserve anymore. Cool. All right. 2 shots at this Prime Glory with the Fizz Riven. I hope you can do it. Even if you don't. still proud of you. All right, let's assemble more of this squad of Reforgers if we can. None of these cards are what we really want to start with except the Blade Squire. Papercraft makes an appearance.
Join the hunters, they said.
Join the hunters, they said.
I'll show the hunters.
Man, it's like I'm so tempted after some of those previous games where I wanted the +1 health off of the Yordle Squire. Is this one of those worlds now to where I want to actually take it here? I'm not like familiar enough with the deck to know when. I feel like if you're ever in doubt, just take the spear. But I've run into like many situations to where I actually want the shield. Like we don't have too much in the way of 2 health units here. Right, like we are sitting on the Grandfather Fae, who we could put the shield on, who would then survive an AoE. But I guess we also ran into that spot to where if they have a Lysandra and she flips into Ice Storm or whatever that thing's called, we want it there as well. But I think realistically, with like the makeup of this hand and the way that this is probably going to go, is we're going to get the Owlcat, we're going to load it up with the Papercraft, and then we're going to try and protect as much as we can with Friendship. Kind of like preemptively bastion it if we need to. Right? No, it's just this round. You can like open before our opponent gets the chance to flash freeze with it, but okay, so how's all this going to sequence out, right? 2 turns from now. Well, we don't have... I can't get like too super involved because we don't have an Overwhelm fragment yet. But it's like on turn 4, I definitely want to have... Or on turn 5, I definitely want to be dropping the Papercraft Dragon. And a lot of this just kind of comes down to... Is our opponent able to play an AoE, right? That's how they can punch through the Owlcat, is by playing a Blighted Ravine on this next turn. But let's see what happens. Man, maybe we do just punch in with the width. I mean, he's got an opportunity to play cards here and stuff, but... Alright, there's the Blighted Ravine. That was what my ultimate worry was, but we were still going to be kind of in the same space to where we couldn't drop an Owlcat on the board. I wonder if we would have ever put like the shield on the Grandfather Fae and then gone for the Papercraft that way.
These hands know metal and magic.
Alright, well, we picked up another Grandfather Fae. That's going to get us in the space to where we can try and both Owlcat and Papercraft Dragon next turn. I don't think we're going to be like close enough to lethal though. Is the kind of bummer there. Interesting. That seems fairly preemptive. Oh, and I guess the big thing here will be if he has a Blighted Ravine or not. Tavern Keeper. Okay. Just, right, we can take a 16 hit and not die, but then if he plays the Blighted Ravine, that's enough to take us down.
I've carved meat bigger than you.
That's the wrong block. Move it over.
Let's talk about your dad.
Thank you. Sometimes they hear me through the internet and stuff, and so.
I've carved meat bigger than you.
Why would you kill off the Last Breath unit? Given the opportunity to kill a 3-attack Last Breath or kill a 3-attack Do Nothing, take the 3-attack Do Nothing. Don't give me the fragment. There you go. Figured it out. Okay. Comes down to it though, it's like we can still block one of these, and that would take us to 3. Now we are getting pretty heavily built up to this Owlcat kill. We're gonna have a ton of boost next turn. I didn't do the math to see how much it was, but we have the wallop for the blocker, and then we can we can try and load up the Owlcat. All right, I'm ready to be all in. Bring it upon me. let me feel it. So what do we got here? 2 attack, need to play. The might we need to play. That's 2, 5. That gets us to 18. And then we can still wallop the block. Okay. Let's see if we did it. Ready. I'm prepared. I'm bringing it forward. And say, oh, it doesn't lose health. The spell shield blocks it. Boom. Bring that thunder. I knew you could do it, Owlcat. I was so proud of you. I knew you had it in you. All right. Nice set of battles. Get ourselves that prime glory. So, I'm happy enough with how that played out. I feel like there's kind of like 2 things with that came out of that, right? It's so tough. Like I feel like in match like 2, 3, and 4 we played against Frozen Thralls, which again, like we've been through this before. This isn't our first rodeo in terms of playing the Gauntlet and playing in best of 3. It did happen here. The deck is popular, but it's like ultimately pretty tough to bring a lineup that just says, okay, I'm going to try and beat Frozen Thralls, because you just get like so weak to the rest of the format. And so I don't know like exactly what the answer is in terms of, do I like set myself up with all of these kind of like 50-50 style matchups, or it's not 50-50 matchups with Fizz Riven. I tell you, it's like the best deck in the format, but nobody plays it. But do you kind of like set that up, and then just hope you can outplay all of your opponents? Like that may work for you as a viewer, like the people that are coming out here and seeking out content on the internet to get better at Runeterra, and people that have sought out enough to make their way down to our channel. Probably much better than average, and you probably are going to be outplaying the average Gauntlet goer. And so it's not bad if you can just kind of like line yourself up with a bunch of kind of coin flippy matchups. But if you're playing on ladder where everyone's a fairly similar skill level, or if you're playing like people better than you, that's kind of like where you get in the spot to where you need to have those good matchups to have things work out that way, or work out in your favor. And so like I'm not entirely sure, again, like how I feel about these. It's like every time I try to mention something like this, it just goes the complete opposite way. Like I assure you, if we had brought a lineup to just beat up on the Frozen Thralls, we wouldn't have faced them once. But I think this kind of like style of lineup is growing on me a little bit more, and I think I was able to kind of like at least pull up some of these matchups in this kind of matchup table style format, and show you what we're working with and how we're trying to get it going and everything. And I think this kind of works out nicely. And so we'll see. I haven't decided what I want to bring to the next Gauntlet. I'm certainly going to bring another Gauntlet video as our next one. But if we want to, focus in on taking down Talia Alessandra, or how we want to do it, I'm not sure. It's like, I feel like if that's your thing, you have to have like a bunch of 60% matchups or better. If you're going to kind of focus in on Lysandra Talia, you would need to bring a lineup that looks something like whatever this is, Annie Jen, and then a Lowy Rally, and then something like Mono Viego or something, right? Something that looks like Tarek Poppy has a pretty solid matchup against it. I think you have to have these like really big win rates, and you can't be looking at these decks or these matchups to where it's like 55, 55, 55. I think you have to be like super all in on beating up the matchup. And so That's, again, not what we were trying to do today. Again, all the matchups we were playing were fairly close. I feel like we definitely had some outplays here today. I'm not the best player in the world, but I'm better than many, if you will. And so I felt like had we been playing the top ladder players, we probably would have lost a lot of those games. But we were able to pull it out today. Nonetheless, some food for thought. So if you have agrees, disagrees, thoughts, yeses, and nos, be sure to let us know in the comments. I love seeing what people think about these things. And that is going to be that. And so, hope everyone enjoyed the video. You learned how to play with the fish a little bit better. Such a good deck. Hope you learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.